All right, folks, we are looking at 5.22. All right. A lot of these problems are going to be exactly what we've seen before. For instance, look at number 1, graph the transformation, a translation of 2, -3 after you've translated 2, 5 for these vertices. So look, you would first take these vertices and apply the translation 2, 5. So this is the X and Y movement, 2 and 5. So A would become 1 plus 2. So A prime would become 3 for X, and then 2 plus 5, 7 for Y. So the new A prime here is 3, 7, okay? And then after you do that for all three, look, you would do that for all three for 2, 5, and then the exact same thing, you do it for 2, -3. So these problems right here, the first three are all very similar. Let's do number 3 really quick, where we have this transformation, and it's going to apply the same thing. The only difference with this, oh, put a comma there, that's right. Let me do it real quick. -7, 1. All right, I'll try to move quicker for you impatient people watching at home. All right, it's number 3. Number 3. All right, come on. All right, so we have our point. We have a first translation to do, and then a second translation. Okay, guys? So when you have the triangle, instead of having 1 point, triangle just has 3 different points. So you'd have to apply, numbers 1 and 2 actually ask you to do more work than number 3. But for number 3, we are looking at first translate 1, 1. Okay, so remember that's our H, that's our K. We're going to add 1 here. We're going to add 1 here. So then we get the transformation 5, 4, which you still have to do. And after we did our first translation, we end up with -6. We end up with 2. All right, I just combine these, adding my H and K to my X and my Y. Okay. Now we have to translate this H and K. So I'm going to add 5. I'm going to add 4. So we get our final transformation, and we end up at -1, 6. Done. All right. When you have a triangle, you should have more than one vertice. So you'd be doing this 3 times, because a triangle has 3 vertices. All right, now we're going to get into a few more. All right, guys, I wanted to share this. This is something that is in my notes for in the teacher manual. But here we know that translations, when you have the H and K here, you just add the H to the X, you add the K to the Y. Translations, I think you guys are pretty good. Now reflections, there's some hints here, and I wrote them on my whiteboard so we'll be able to apply them. But if you're going reflection through the x-axis, so crossing it, flipping it horizontally here, then xy just becomes x negative y, okay? Through the y-axis, you're basically just going to the other side. For the x, the y stays the same. The x becomes negative. And going across the line xy, x is equal to y, y is equal to x, then you end up just switching the x and y, okay? So that was kind of our definition of inverse, the x and y switch. All right, we've seen that before. Now rotation, these also have little rules we could follow. 90-degree rotation about the origin, right? XY becomes -YX if you're going 90 degrees. 180 degrees, you are starting with XY, you end up with -X and -Y. 270 degrees from around the origin, start with XY, you end up with Y, -X. Okay, so I'm going to take a screenshot of this and put it up on as resources. Okay. So let's go ahead and look at a problem here. So we were down here. And here we go. All right, so we just did number 3 as like a general how to do numbers 1, 2. Instead of just reflecting 1 point, transforming 1 point here, we have to do it to 3 points because we're translating a triangle. All right, now let's look here. Let's look at number 4. Okay, so number 4, we have a rotation. We have rotation 90 degrees after we have a translation of 1, 1 of our 5, -1. Okay, so now we're going to jump over here. And you'll see I put the rotations 90 degrees where we start and where we end. I put the reflections across the x-axis, y-axis, and our x equal to y, y is equal to x. and here's the answers you end up here. So we just kind of have to basically apply this. Now, first we have this point here, 5, -1. We need to translate it 1, 1. So this is my h, that's my k. Add it to the x and the y. We'll end up with then a rotation of 90, which we have to do, of the point 6, 0. Okay. Now let's look at our cheat sheet here. So rotation of 90 degrees, when you start with x, y, you end up with negative yx. So if I apply a rotation of 90 degrees to 6, 0, here's my x, here's my y, I need to make negative y, negative 0 is just 0, and I need to move the x over into the y place. The 6 is going to become the y value. And that's how we would do those two steps. First translating it 1, 1, then rotate it 90 using our rules and our tricks over here. Okay. All right, so now we're going to look at number 8. Number 8 here, graph the transformation, a reflection across the y-axis after you've reflected across the x-axis of the triangle. Here are our vertices. So now let's look and do this in actuality. All right, so we are sharing. It's weird. Let me try it again. Hello. Let's share that. Come on, you can do it. Yeah. All right, perfect. So we still have our cheat sheet over here. It's going to help us a lot for these specific problems. Now look, first we have to do this part, okay? We have to rotate across the x-axis, excuse me, lowercase r is reflection across the x-axis for DEF. Now, if I look at the reflection across the x-axis, xy becomes x negative y. So it's going to be really easy to, here, I have my vertices of DEF for the triangle, and let's see what they're going to become. So let's see, we end up with a rotation, reflection across the x-axis. It's going to become xy becomes x negative y. So watch, 9, negative 10. This one, 8, negative 2 is positive 2. 1, 4 is going to be 1, negative 4. Okay, it's not too hard. Now, that is this part. We've just done that. Now, we need to rotate, reflect across the y-axis, reflect across the y-axis for all of these points. Because we already reflected across the x-axis, going from our pre-image here to our image after we do the first reflection. Now we got to do a second reflection. So I'm just going to make those in blue. So I'll call it D double prime. That's going to be here. Now let's look to see. If I'm doing a rotation across the y, I keep saying that. If I'm doing a reflection across the y-axis, my xy becomes negative xy. So watch. This is my x and my y. It's going to become negative 9, negative 10. E double is going to become negative 8, 2, right? F prime is going to become negative 1, negative 4. Okay, so here's where we end up. This is just a matter of knowing these rules. These are super important, and it allows you to start from a point and make your way to the final. Again, remember the quizzes are open notes, so I will take a picture of this and make sure you have it. All right. All right, guys, for this one, for number 10, I am just going to give you a strategy. Okay, guys, so here's the thing. Let's look at this. We have W right here, right? W. And we have W prime. You see that little prime right there? So W prime is our image, and W is our pre-image. So this is where we start. That's where we end up. Now let's see what in the world is happening here. Let's look at just a couple points and see where we start and end. Okay, here we are at negative 2 and 2. And this point is pretty easy to see. It corresponds to this one. So if I'm starting here at negative 2, 2, and I end up at 2, positive 2, what's happened? I look at this and I say, well, it looks like it rotates around the origin, right? Because look, this is kind of rotating about the center, about the origin. And this point right here, going from here to here, we started with negative 2, 2, and we end up with 2, 2, okay? So negative 2, 2, ending up with 2, 2 is really what we're doing is doing a rotation of 90 degrees, okay? So if I do kind of just give your attention back to this, yeah? What I was bringing up is, if my rotation is 90 degrees, I start with x, y, I end up with negative yx, okay? So again, we had the point negative 2, 2, and then we end up with the image of 2, 2. Okay, so what really happened with that? X and Y, the something isn't quite right. One moment, let me pause this. All right, I'm looking at it a little closer here. If we're starting here at negative 2, 2, we end up at 2, 2, right? What happened there is actually the y value of 2 became the x value, okay? And the x value of negative 2 became the y value, but the y value is positive 2. So just want to bring it up before I had misled you minorly. But if we look at this, come on. Yes. If we look at here, if I go from negative 2, 2 to 2, 2, so we're doing number 10 right now. If I go from negative 2, 2 to 2, 2, my x and y, my y's become x, my x's become negative and in the y position. So actually we had a rotation of 270 degrees. And let's see if that matches for the others. Okay. So remember that the x becomes the y in negative, the y becomes the x. And let's just double check if that works for all of our points. All right. So if I look at this, let's take another point that's easy to find. How about this one? We have 4, 1. Now, if this is 4, 1, and we had the rotation of 270 degrees, this point here should be, you know, if we're starting with 4, 1, then my x and y are going to switch places, and my x value is going to become negative. So I end up with 1, negative 4. That's with our 270 degree rotation. Now, if I look closely, I have it at 4, 1. And then look, if I rotate it 270 degrees following our rules, we end up with 1, negative 4, and that's what we just figured out as well. Okay, so this whole image to, or pre-image to image, is a rotation 270 degrees around this direction. Okay, 270 degrees counterclockwise. All right, I think that's it for today. Check in if you need more help on this. We will have a quiz on this next week. Thanks for watching, and stay safe for the weekend. All right.